Good day, and again, thank you for being a part of the Enoch Baptist Church family. One of the questions that seems to always plague people is, am I in God's perfect will? Am I in God's permissive will? Am I on the verge of living a sinful life, or is this sin or is that sin? And when you study the Bible, oftentimes it seems like the commandments are so voluminous. How am I to know if I am in God's will? How am I to know if I am outside of one of the sins that are outlined in the Bible? The thing we have to understand is this, is that the law of the Bible is not meant to hold us down, but the law of the Bible is meant to serve as a method for us to understand God's desire and how we should treat our fellow man with love, compassion, and understanding. So today we explore that simple concept of why love is greater than the law, how grace overrides all that the world tries to trap us in. So thank you for being a part of our services today. I hope that you gain from this service to the extent that it frees you to walk in the certainty that heaven will be your home. God bless you, and please continue to pray for this ministry.
And ushers, thank you so much. You can go ahead and take your seat. Love and the law. That's what we want to talk about today. Love and the law. You know, a couple of weeks ago, when in Bible study, one of the members asked me a simple question. He said to me, Pastor, is it a sin to go to a club and have a good time? And it dawned on me, because this is someone who has been in Bible study with me for an extended period of time. This is someone who was a pillar of the church. But it dawned on me that there is a disconnect for many of our members from man-made law and God's law. But I had that disconnect at one time myself, not just as a member of a church, but even as a pastor of a church. When I first became a pastor, I've been here about maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and my wife had an event on her job where they had a Christmas party. And I go to the Christmas party with her to tell you how long it's been ago. The electric slide was brand new. And so we go to the party, and they play that song, that traditional for the slide, and everybody jumps up and they start dancing. And I'm the new pastor of Enoch Baptist Church. And so even though my foot was moving, my head said, stay still. And so I sat there while they had a good time. And so afterwards, I said to her, I cannot accompany you to these types of functions anymore because I don't want my good to be evil spoken of. And so she said, that's all right, but that's my job, so I got to go. So I called up a friend of mine. He's senior to me. My pastor had died. He's gone, Dr. Walton had passed. And so I called up another pastor senior to me, Moses Davis. And I said to him, I have a problem. I need to talk to you about it. He said, come on over, let's talk. So I get over there and we're talking, and I explain the problem to him. And he looks at me and he says, you don't have a problem. You just lack understanding. And I said, what do you mean I don't have a problem? He said, I want you to open up your Bible and show me in your Bible where it says that you cannot go with your wife to an office function.
Go ahead now.
And I said, well, I don't think that the Bible understood that in 2000 and whatever it was, that people would have these kind of parties and there would be electric slide. He said, do you tell me that you don't think God was smart enough to know what you were going to be doing in the rest of your life? He said, so if God wanted it to be in there, it would have been in there. And if he didn't put it in there, why are you putting it in there?
All right.
He said, that's your wife. You think God cares if you dance with your wife? And so I go home and I fast because my thing was, this goes against everything that my pastor had taught me. Everything. And even though I was in seminary school and studying the Bible, I was still holding on to the old stuff that people told me. Stuff like women can't wear red to church. Because red symbolized that they were pussies. So they couldn't wear red lipstick, earrings, and all this tiny stuff. We had been taught that you could not iron on Sunday because Sunday was the Lord's day. And even though Jesus said that man was not made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was made for man, in our minds we still went by that old premise that you couldn't iron on Sundays. So we had to iron our clothes on Saturdays, not on Sunday. Because you couldn't work on Sunday. Excuse me, you could wash dishes on Sunday. You just couldn't iron on Sunday. Can you go to a club? Can you enjoy life? Can you go to a cookout in the backyard and play spades? Can you do all that stuff? It's a question that has locked people up for years because of our inability to understand the love and the law. In the 13th chapter of Romans, and can we just talk? Is that going to be all right? We talk through. In the 13th chapter of Romans, what's happening is that there is a debate going on about how you should respond to the world. And that's what's happening here, is that there's a debate because those rulers that are in power, the concept is, should we yield to them or should we disobey them and say, because you are a part of the world, we cannot serve under you? Now, in the first part of the 13th chapter, what Paul addresses is that simple concept, and that is that we should understand that anyone that is over you, your supervisor, your magistrate, whoever it is, he's just simply saying they are over you because God gave them the authority to be over you. He's saying that if God did not want them over you, he would not have put you subservient to them, but he would put you over them. And he says to them that, therefore, your job is to acknowledge who they are, because anytime you're doing a good work, you don't have to worry about a boss or a magistrate. He said, because the only people that have to worry about a boss or a magistrate are people who are not doing what they're supposed to do.
All right. Right.
And then he flips it and starts talking about the law and love. Because he's trying to help them to understand that you are only a terror to something if you don't understand what it is all about. And so he says to them that if you understand the law, you would understand why God gave the law. Are you with me so far? And so he says to them that if you consider how the original law was established, and what Paul is looking at is those commandments that were placed on tablets, those 10 commandments that you all look at as being the guiding principle of how you're going to act in life. And he says to them that if you look at those guiding principles, if you look at those 10 commandments, if you break them down, what you will find is there's a reason for the law that is above what you think. He says that the question we have to really ask ourselves is this: is the law greater than God's love? Let it sink. Is the law greater than God's love? Is the love that Jesus has for you weaker than his ability to override his own command? That's what he says. Now, if you take that law and you study it and look at how it has been set up, you'll find it breaks down in 3 basic areas. Okay? Because most of you all know the law, right? Thou shalt have no other God before me. Thou shalt not make any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven or above. Thou shalt not bow down thyself, for I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. Thou shalt remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. The first 2/3 of the law deal with God. It deals with my love of God, and it deals with how I show my love of God to him. The first part of the law focuses on who God is and why I should love him. It says that my God is my creator. Not my mother, not my father, but my God is my creator. Why is God my creator? Because my mother and my father only could do one thing, and that is they were the mechanism to create my body. But creating my body does not create who I am, because I needed a soul to enter my body, to energize my flesh, and to give me the ability to work my mind. See, if my body was who I was, then that meant that we could live forever, because all the doctor has to do is to hook you up and keep your heart pumping, and you will continue to live. But what you know is being on a machine is not life, because when the soul leaves the body is gone. So what he says then is that because of who created me, because of who put me here, I ought to love that entity more than anything else. Because if it wasn't for that entity, I would not be here. Y'all with me so far?
Amen. Amen.
So not my spouse. That person shouldn't take the volume of my love. Not my mother or my father, because they're not responsible for me, but God is responsible for me. So therefore, the sum total of my love, all of my mind, body, heart, and soul ought to be demonstrated in going to my God. Then he says, then the other few commandments deal with, well, how then do I show God how I feel? Because if my mind, my body, and my soul, if I'm loving God that way, how do I show God that I love him that way? And he said, then remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Don't remember the Sabbath as a mechanism to lock you down, but remember the Sabbath so you will show God on the Sabbath how much you love him. So then he's saying that's where my worship and my praise comes into focus. Because if I truly love him, he's saying then on that day, if God gave me 6 days, well, he has taken care of me and gave me everything that I need to survive. If he gives me air to breathe, if he gives me water, if he gives me food, if he in fact is the one that ensures I have clothes on my back, if he is the one that is responsible for my house, not my builder, but God is. Why? Because my builder could not make the tree that got the wood that enabled me to build the house. You hear me so far? raw materials did not make the raw materials to make the brick. Only my God can do that. And see, when I eat, I'm not eating based on what Food Line gave me. Because Food Line cannot create a tomato. Food Line cannot create a lamb chop, a pork chop, a sausage, or a collard green leaf. See, only God can do that. And so he's saying that then on 6 days, he's been doing all this for me, giving me strength in my body, giving me what I need to do to get up one day after another. Then I ought to take one day, remember the Sabbath, and show my love to my God. How am I going to show my love to my God? It's by taking my attention off of myself and putting my attention on the God that has brought me so much joy in my life. The God that has done so much for me, I got to stop focusing on me and start focusing on my God. Now, how do I focus on him and worship him? Well, we are told that in the other commandments. I am to worship him with that which he has given back to me. I am to worship him with my mouth. All that have breath, he said, worship ye the Lord. He said, if you don't do it for what he has done for you, then the rocks will cry out, which indicates he wants you not to be silent in your worship, but everything that got voice or to cry out about what God has done for them. That means that one day out of the week, I need to get out of myself. No matter how I'm feeling about myself, I got to get out of myself and recognize why I'm able to be here on the holiest of days. And so my worship then is a mechanism for showing my love of him. Now, the remaining commandments that we see here, they deal with how we are to respond, not to the Creator, but to that which has been created. For example, if I love God, he says, thou shalt not kill. Amen. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor. He said, that tells me how I am to treat people. So the commandment then, what Paul says is that commandment is not telling me directly what I cannot do. The commandment is telling me how to demonstrate that I love God. And if I love God, I will love that which God created. Because if God created it, no matter how I feel about it, God made it. And it belongs to God and not to me. And so if I love God, I have to treat it like it is God's and not mine. And since God created my neighbor, that's what he's saying here. That since God created my neighbor, I must treat my neighbor the way this says I show love to my neighbor. Are you with me so far? And so then Paul says, if that be the case, then the whole law rests on that simple concept, which is love without, you said it, brother, unconditionally and without judgment. Now, getting back to my original premise. Can I go to the club? The question is, why am I going to the club? Can I go to Las Vegas? The question is, why am I going to Las Vegas? See, this was not what you can't do.
All right, preacher.
This was why you ought to do what you do. If I'm going to the club to show my wife I love her, and I want her to have a good time, and sit back and listen to some nice music, and take her on the dance floor, and show her off to the other folks, so they will know I got some candy on my arm. If I'm showing her love by doing it, I can go in saved, and I can come out saved. If I want to go to the beach, and my wife wants to wear a bathing suit, if she's wearing it not for your eyes, but if she's wearing it for my eyes, just to let me know, not only did I used to have it, but I still got it. Then everything's gonna be all right. If I go to your house and you got spades popping in the backyard, but we ain't there to talk about nobody. We there to enjoy one another. And we can go in spades, and if I got 5 books, I'm gonna call my 5. And God ain't gonna be mad. When I start dropping them trump cards on you. How? Because they ain't there to bring nobody down. We just there to have a good time. So he says love is the fulfilling of the whole law. I'm getting ready to bring you home now. There's a reason why he said that love is the fulfilling of the whole law. Not just because I always do right, but because there are times that I also do wrong. But I need enough love somewhere to take care of my right and to take care of my wrong. Fortunately, my love of God and God's love of me was great enough that he gave me enough love for me to be right and for him to take care of my wrong. I'm getting ready to preach now. Because I love God with all my mind, body, heart, and soul. Not because I've been so good, but because I've been so bad. And because God's love was so great that he gave his only. Somebody ought to talk back to me now. Somebody who ain't been good all their life ought to talk back to me now. Because your love of God ain't because you first loved him, but because God first loved you. You love God because you know where you've been. See, I got some 70 folk in the congregation. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you've been back in the 70s and the 60s, you know that during your lifetime, you did some stuff, you thought some money, that you don't even want to think about right about now. You've been some places that you woke up and was scared to even look at yourself. So you said, how did I get here? And what did I do to get here? But because God loved, y'all better talk back. But because you love God, and because God loved you, he gave you Jesus Christ. Now other folks now that thought that Jesus would cast you out because of what others said about you. I need you to understand that the love of Jesus is greater than what the world has put on you. See, the world try to make up some commandments to make us look bad and make you feel bad about yourself. But I ain't leaning on the world. I'm leaning on Jesus right now. And I know you might think that because I do what I do, that I'm going to bust hell wide open. That's because you don't know hell. I already been in hell. I already been in hell. I was there for a long time. But then I got the blood of Jesus here. He brought me out of hell. He died for me. He rose for me. And now I'm a brand new creature. I'm brand new in Christ. And nothing and nobody can separate me from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus. You can lie on me, but that ain't gonna get me out of God's good grace. You can talk about what I used to be like, but that ain't gonna get me out of God's good grace. I might not be where you want me to be, but I'm what God made me to be. And I'm what God made me to be. Unless you got a Bible that you wrote, unless you got a heaven, unless you got a hell, go sit down somewhere and let me praise Him the way I want to praise Him. When we understand love and the law, it frees you. It does not constrain you. That's why Jesus said, I came that you might have life. Have it more abundantly. He who the Son sets free, free indeed. Does that mean I'm going to do everything I used to do? No. But does that mean that God is cramping my lifestyle? No. It means I have more liberty to enjoy life now. Because now I'm doing it not with love for me. I'm doing it with love for my God and love for the folk that are around me. You see, so
The word.
right. Let me say this and I'm gonna let you go.
I want to stack.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, right.
Got a bag for me?
Brother, I'll be and you be here all night. I'm going to help you understand how you can give yourself a simple test about whether or not you love God more than you love the world. Many of us walk around afraid because we have let the world tell us what's in the Bible. We haven't looked at it and accepted what the Bible says about how we should live. Do you remember your first love? Some of us got to go back a few years. Your first love. You remember how that first love felt? You remember how when the first love, you just would like be on the phone? Nobody saying nothing, but you just on the phone. Well, yeah, I don't care what you're doing, watching TV, watching dishes. Half the time you might even be asleep, but you really hang up the phone. You're breathing at each other. Then you do like this, you hang up. No, you hang up. You hang up, no, you hang up. Let's hang up together. 1, 2, 3. I thought you were going to hang up. No, you hang up. That's the first love. thinking about it. You went to sleep thinking about it. You on the job sneaking telephone calls in, right? All this stuff, first love. If you was in school, when you left the third period class, you ran the way they was at, right? And walked them to the locker. Because you loved them. You wanted to be with them all the time. That's why you said you didn't want to leave.
That's right.
Because God is your first love. When God is your first love, you don't want to leave. You always want to be in the presence of the Spirit. I'm not saying the Spirit is everywhere. But not only do you want to be in the presence, but you want to give your best. Because that first love, you gave it everything you had. It's only till your heart got broke that you see, then you hold back a little bit. See, once your heart don't mean anything, you know what? Ain't nobody getting on me no more. Right? Jesus, has he ever broken your heart? No. When you love him, you'll give him everything you got. You'll give him all of you. Everything, because you want him to be pleased with you. That's what Paul is talking about. Love God with all your mind, body, heart, and soul. I know he loves me because he gave his life for me. He recognized that in my imperfection, I needed a Savior. And he knew that he was the perfect sacrifice, so he gave himself. And that's why I can preach the word, not because I'm perfect, but because I'm saved. Amen. If you're here today, you need to know that he loves you. No matter what other people think about you, he loves you. He has forgiven you. He will make a difference in your life. If you're here today, if you have not given your life to Christ because of what other people have told you about why it's inappropriate for you to be a part of God's beloved church. People have told me stuff that warped my mind. And so I didn't get saved for a long time because I would always think that I couldn't because of where I was in my lifestyle. Lifestyle has nothing to do with getting saved. How much drugs you do has nothing to do with being saved. How much liquor you drink, who you shacking up with, how many girlfriends or boyfriends or both you got, has nothing to do with being saved. Being saved is about giving your life to Christ. It's not about being perfect. It's about receiving Christ and then showing the love we just talked about. Because when you get that love for folk, you'll really miss them. See, when you get that love for folk, you won't mess up with them. You know why? Because I love you too much to mess over you.
That's right.
I love you too much to do this to you. Christ helps you develop that kind of love. If you're here today, if you have not received Christ as your personal Savior, the doors of the church